There is one sentence, just one single line, and when you finally say it, when you finally mean every word of it, when it rises up from somewhere so deep inside you that it stops sounding like a question or a plea or some kind of quiet trade, it will change the entire shape of your life. Not because the words carry any kind of magic, not because the sentence itself holds a hidden spell inside it. It changes everything because the person speaking it has finally become someone the narcissist in their life never planned for, someone they never accounted for, someone they spent years trying to dismantle piece by piece, layer by layer, brick by brick, and completely failed in the process. That sentence is coming, but first, you need to understand something that maybe no one has ever told you clearly enough, honestly enough, or with enough respect for what you actually lived through. What happened to you was not a bad relationship. It was not a simple communication problem. It was not a personality clash or a rough patch or two people who simply were not meant to be together. What happened to you was a slow, deliberate, and often quiet wearing down of your sense of self, carried out by someone who needed to break you in order to feel whole inside their own skin. If that thought just made your chest tighten, if something inside you just let out a long breath like a deep recognition, then stay with me right here, because this entire piece was written specifically for you and what you have survived. Now let me tell you what a narcissist actually fears, because most people misunderstand this completely. And if any of this is landing, hit the like button before I keep going, because what comes next might be the most important part of this whole video. Most people think a narcissist fears being exposed. They believe that if they just spread the truth to enough people, document enough incidents, say the right thing in front of the right audience, the narcissist will finally crumble and admit everything out loud. Most people think a narcissist fears open anger. They believe that if they finally raise their voice, stop being so accommodating, push back with the same force they have been quietly absorbing for years, the narcissist will back down and retreat in shame. And some people, the ones who sat inside the relationship the longest, the ones worn down to someone they barely recognize when they look in the mirror now, believe the narcissist fears losing them. They have been carefully trained to believe their own worth comes from how desperately the narcissist keeps pulling them back into the same painful cycle. But here is what truly keeps a narcissist awake at night. Here is what makes them suddenly escalate the moment things start to feel calm. Here is the single thing they cannot control, cannot use, cannot twist, cannot reframe, and certainly cannot talk their way out of. What a narcissist fears at the deepest layer of their psychology is someone who no longer needs them to define what is real. Someone who no longer needs their approval to know what is actually true. Someone who has rebuilt an inner sense of self so steady, so solid, so deeply resistant to manipulation that no amount of charm, no amount of rage, no amount of carefully manufactured chaos can ever knock it loose again. Stay with me, because we are just getting warmed up. To understand why that kind of person shakes a narcissist so deeply, you need to understand what a narcissist actually is. And I do not mean the caricatured version that most people picture in their head. The loud, obviously arrogant person who brags without stop and takes up all the air in every room they walk into. Some narcissists do look exactly like that in public. Many do not. Many narcissists are quiet. Many are charming, attentive, occasionally generous, and very, very good at making you feel like the most important person in the entire world, right up until the exact moment you are not. Many narcissists present themselves as the victim in every single story they tell anyone who will listen. The wounded soul who just needs someone to finally love them the right way, just once in their entire difficult life. Many narcissists look exactly like the person you fell in love with, like the person you trusted with your whole heart, like the person you built your entire life around without ever suspecting a thing. So what ties every version of them together? What makes every shape of narcissism recognizable the moment you finally know what to look for? It is this: an inability to accept the full, rich, complex humanity of another person, a basic incapacity to see you as a whole human being, someone with real needs and real feelings and real boundaries that matter on their own, not just because of how they served the narcissist or how they happened to threaten the narcissist in that particular moment. You were never really a full person to them. You were a function they needed to keep running. And the moment you stopped functioning the way they needed you to function, they did not grieve what they had lost in you. They punished you for it. If something inside you is pushing back right now, because surely that cannot be true of the person you once loved with everything you had, then let me ask you a few simple questions that matter more than you might realize at first. When did they ever celebrate your success without somehow making it about themselves in the end? When did they sit quietly with your pain without steering the conversation back toward their own struggles? When did they actually hear your boundary and respect it, not because they agreed with it, not because they even understood it at all, but simply because it was yours, and that fact alone was enough for them? I am not asking these questions to hurt you in any way. I am asking them because I need you to finally see clearly the way you once saw everything in life before them. Clarity is not cruelty. Clarity is the very beginning of getting your entire life back into your own hands. The structure of narcissistic control is not built in a single day. It does not arrive overnight like a storm. It begins with mirroring, plain and simple. In the early part of the relationship, the narcissist becomes whoever they need to become in order to win you over completely. They reflect your deepest values back at you like a perfect mirror. They share your exact interests like they have always loved them too. They seem to understand your oldest wounds in a way that feels almost impossible to explain to anyone else outside the relationship. Now, this is not always a conscious form of manipulation on their part. Many narcissists genuinely believe, at least in the early going, that they really are the person they are performing for you day after day. The truly sad part of this whole dynamic is that what you fell in love with was mostly a reflection of yourself that they built carefully to draw you in and keep you close. And when that carefully built image began to crack, when the real person started to show through the charming performance, your mind did something entirely understandable and entirely dangerous at the same time. It held on to the original picture of them in your memory. It told you, this is who they really are deep down. The other version, the cold one, the cruel one, the dismissive one, the one who makes you doubt your own memory of yesterday, that is not the real them, your mind quietly whispered. That is just stress, or fear, or old wounds of theirs, or something you did wrong without realizing it. And so the internal war began inside you, the war between what you actually experienced with them and what you were told you had experienced, between what you felt with every fiber of your being and what you were told you should have felt, between who you truly were at your core and who you were slowly, painfully being reshaped into without your consent. This is what psychologists call cognitive dissonance, and it sits at the very center of how narcissistic control works over years of a relationship. The narcissist does not need to physically hold you in place. They do not need to lock any doors behind you. They control you through deep confusion, through the constant, exhausting back and forth between warmth and sudden withdrawal, between praise and sudden punishment, between moments of real connection and episodes of baffling cruelty that come out of nowhere and leave you breathless. Your nervous system, that older, survival-focused part of your brain that is always scanning the room for safety, becomes hooked on the unpredictability itself. The inconsistency becomes the bond that holds you in place when nothing else can. When someone treats you inconsistently over time, your brain does not relax into the relationship the way it is naturally supposed to. Instead, it works harder. It tries endlessly to solve the puzzle in front of it. It watches, analyzes, adjusts, and slowly twists itself, trying to figure out what you need to say, what you need to do, what you need to become, just to get back to that early version of them that you first fell in love with. And here is the hard, painful truth about that endless chase of yours that has cost you so much. The version you are chasing does not exist in real life. It never did. What existed was a performance from the very first day, and you have spent years of your precious life auditioning for a role in a story that was never written with your well-being in mind at all. Gaslighting is a word most people know by now, but very few people understand how deep it actually runs beneath the surface in real relationships. The more damaging kind of gaslighting is not about arguing over single events that happened last week. It is about your entire way of experiencing reality itself being slowly rewritten by someone else. It is the slow, cumulative, day-after-day process where someone makes you feel as if your perceptions are wrong, your emotions are too much, your needs are completely unreasonable, your memory cannot be trusted on its own, your gut feeling is nothing but paranoia. Your boundaries are attacks on them personally. Your grief is a form of manipulation aimed at getting a reaction out of them. Your anger is a sign of your own instability that they need to manage. Over time, you start handing your own reality over to them without even realizing you are doing it. You stop trusting yourself completely. You stop asking what you think or what you actually feel about anything. Instead, you start asking what they think about it, what they feel about it, what they will accept from you today, what they will allow you to feel without punishment. You have not gone crazy in any way. You have not become weak as a person. You have been systematically trained, day after day, week after week, to distrust the one thing inside you that was built from the very beginning to protect you, which is your own mind and your own quiet knowing. If you have felt that, if you have lived that, if you have stood inside your own life feeling like a complete stranger to yourself, unsure of what is real and what was quietly planted there by someone else on purpose, then I need you to hear this clearly right now. That is not who you actually are at your center. That is what was done to you. And those are not the same thing at all. There is something in the field of psychology called trauma bonding, and it is one of the most misunderstood ideas in the entire study of how relationships really work between two people. Trauma bonding is a real, measurable neurobiological process. It happens when cycles of abuse and reward, threat and relief, hurt and sudden comfort create a bond in your brain that mimics and in some ways even surpasses the bonds normally formed by steady love and healthy attachment over a long period. Trauma bonding is not a weakness on your part. It is not a sign of your own stupidity. It is not a measure of low self-esteem. It is your brain doing exactly what brains are designed to do in response to certain patterns of inconsistent reward that have been trained into you through the years. The research on this is clear and consistent. The bond is real in your body. The chemistry is real. The love you felt in those early months was absolutely real to you, even if the person you gave all that love to was never truly capable of receiving it honestly or returning it back to you in any meaningful way. This matters deeply because so many survivors of narcissistic abuse are consumed by quiet self-blame for years after they leave. They ask themselves endlessly why they stayed so long, why they went back so many times, why they kept defending someone who kept hurting them over and over again without stopping. The answer is not that something is fundamentally wrong with you at your core. The answer is that something very specific happened to your nervous system over a long stretch of time, and you survived every single day of it. Understanding that is not an excuse for what they did to you. It is a foundation to build upon. It is the very first brick in the wall you are going to build between yourself and everything that tried so hard to erase you from your own life. Now let us talk about the moment of reclamation, because here is what eventually happens once you have been through enough pain to recognize the pattern clearly. Once you have done enough quiet reading, enough deep thinking alone at night, enough solitary hours sitting with the hard truth of what was really done to you, there comes a quiet moment, and it looks a little different for everyone who finally reaches it inside themselves. When you finally stop trying to fix them, you stop trying to be understood by them at all. You stop trying to get the overdue apology or the genuine acknowledgement or the moment of real remorse that you have always deserved, but will almost certainly never receive from them in this lifetime. There comes a quiet moment when you stop needing them to confirm your reality for you, and you simply step into it yourself, all on your own 2 feet. And when that exact moment finally arrives, something shifts deep inside the dynamic that the narcissist cannot ignore, cannot minimize, cannot rewrite in their own mind, and absolutely cannot control anymore. Narcissistic control runs on a very specific kind of fuel that they need from you: your emotional reactivity, your hope, your fear, your anger, your love, your desperate, aching need for things to finally be resolved between the two of you once and for all. As long as you are reacting in any way, even if you are reacting with open rage at them, even if you are reacting with quiet tears at your kitchen table, even if you are reacting by fighting back using all the strength you have left in your body, the narcissist still has what they need from you in that moment. They have your engagement, they have your precious emotional energy, they have your undivided attention, and attention is the only real supply that ever truly mattered to them in the first place. Your reaction, whatever shape it happens to take on any given day, is living proof that you still matter to them in some way. And mattering to you is the drug they are always chasing without rest. It is the supply they cannot live without for even a single day. It is the very reason they keep escalating small arguments into major fights, keep provoking you with little comments, keep coming back after you have tried to leave them more times than you can even count anymore. They are not coming back because they truly love you or miss who you really are. They are coming back because you are still reacting, and your reaction keeps feeding the part of them that cannot function without your pain. And when you finally stop, when you truly stop inside your bones, not just perform stopping for their benefit on the surface, the whole game becomes unplayable for them from the inside out. You simply cannot manipulate someone who no longer wants anything at all from you. You cannot control someone who no longer fears the idea of losing you for good. You cannot pull a string in someone who has quietly walked past every string you ever hung out for them. The narcissist is not actually powerful in the way they pretend to be in front of other people. The cruelty, the careful control, the endless manipulation, the arrogant boasting about their own life, none of that is real power at all. All of it is defense against the truth. All of it is the exhausting, relentless, daily upkeep of a carefully built false self. A self usually built in early childhood to protect a core that feels fundamentally unlovable and deeply unworthy of being seen by anyone for who they really are. This does not make them innocent in any way at all. It does not make what they did to you acceptable or forgivable on their terms. But it does mean something important that you need to take with you from this video into the rest of your life. The person who hurt you was not actually acting from a place of real strength in themselves. They were acting from a deep well of fear about who they really are when nobody else is watching. The rage was fear dressed up in another costume. The contempt was fear hiding behind a wall of cold judgment. The charm was fear wearing the softest possible mask they could find. The cold silence was fear deciding to say nothing at all and wait you out. Every single tool they ever used against you was there to help them avoid facing what they cannot face about themselves, day after difficult day. And you, being caring, empathetic, perceptive, deeply open-hearted in your own quiet way, walked into that storm with your arms completely open. You offered them the one thing they needed most and could never truly accept from another human being standing in front of them. Real, unconditional regard for who they really were underneath it all. You offered them the genuine chance to be seen and loved as a whole person, flaws and all, and they simply could not take it from you. Not because you offered it in the wrong way at all, not because you were somehow not enough for them in any way you could measure, but because the deepest part of them that could have received that offering never had the chance to grow in the first place. Understanding this does not mean you let them back into your life out of pity for what they went through as a child. It means you can finally stop taking their behavior so personally every single time they lash out. You can finally stop asking yourself what you did wrong every time they pulled away from you without warning. You can finally stop looking at yourself through the distorted, mirrorless view of someone who was never truly capable of seeing you clearly from the very start of the relationship. You can finally pick up the mirror they shattered on the floor and start slowly putting it back together piece by piece, knowing that every single shard you recover is not something to feel ashamed about, but living proof of a self that survives something that was meant to end it completely. Now we finally arrive at the sentence itself, and I really want you to notice how we arrived at this exact place together through this video, not through some clever trick I prepared in advance, not through revenge for what was done to you, not through dramatic confrontation or perfectly chosen words said at some perfect cinematic moment for a camera. We arrived here through slow understanding, through hard truth, through the slow, painful, and entirely necessary work of seeing yourself and your whole situation with total honesty and total clarity without flinching away from any of it. Because that is the only place this one sentence can ever come from with any real weight behind it. If it comes from sudden anger, it carries no real power at all in the long run. If it comes from raw hurt, it carries no real power. If it comes from carefully planned strategy, it carries no real power. It only carries true, lasting weight when it comes from a place of real, settled, completely unshakable knowing deep inside your own body and your own quiet mind. The sentence is this: I no longer need anything from you. 5 quiet words, or some honest version of them that fits your own life, said without heat, without fragile hope, without simmering anger, without any trace of sadness left in your voice, said from a place of complete calm deep inside you that nothing else can shake loose. Not I am done with you, because that still sounds like an ending that took painful effort on your part to reach this far. Not I hate you, because that is still a kind of strange closeness between you and them that keeps you connected by a thread. Not even I forgive you, because genuine forgiveness does not need to be announced to the person being forgiven by you. It happens quietly inside your own heart, for you, by you, with no audience ever needed to witness it or applaud. I no longer need anything from you. Whatever exact words fit your mouth and your own honest truth on any given day, the deeper meaning behind them stays exactly the same. And the narcissist will hear those words, really hear them down to their bones for once, and feel something they have not actually felt since long, long before they ever met you. The particular deep fear of being genuinely, completely irrelevant to your life from this day forward. Not dismissed in a way they can twist into rejection later. Not left in a way they can reframe as their own abandonment by you. Not angry in a way that still secretly shows your lingering desire for them underneath the surface. Just quietly, permanently, completely unnecessary in your life now in every possible way. You have become something they absolutely cannot manage or maneuver around anymore in this lifetime. A person without an open wound they can press on whenever they feel like it. A person without a desperate hope they can dangle in front of you like bait on a hook. A person without a single fear they can still trigger in you on command anymore. A person who has looked at the entire picture of who they really are and has walked away from it all, not with bitterness in their heart, but with the quiet confidence of someone who finally knows their own true worth and no longer needs it recognized by someone who was never capable of recognizing it in the first place. The people who come out on the far other side of narcissistic abuse, truly out, not just physically separated and still hooked in their hearts, but completely free inside their own minds once again, are not harder people than they were before they ever met the narcissist. They are not colder or more distant from other humans. They are simply more discerning about who they let into their lives from this point forward. They are more deeply in tune with the real difference between love that genuinely nourishes them from the inside, and love that quietly drains every last drop of life out of them. They know the real difference between someone who mirrors them with old tricks and someone who actually sees them, possibly for the very first time in their entire adult lives. They carry a certain kind of quiet steadiness with them now, wherever they go. Not arrogance they put on like armor at all, not toughness they perform for strangers, but the calm of someone who has been to the deepest, darkest part of the long night and found standing at the very bottom of it, themselves still there, still breathing, still worth absolutely everything the next chapter of life will ever offer them. You are not a victim quietly waiting to be rescued by someone else, dear listener watching this. You never have been, not for a single day. You are someone who was targeted by a person precisely because of your depth, your kindness, your endless empathy, your natural capacity for deep devotion to another human being you love. Those quiet qualities inside you are not weaknesses to be ashamed of any longer. They are rare and valuable beyond any measure, and someone who is completely incapable of producing them on their own will spend a whole lifetime trying to take them from someone like you who carries them naturally without effort. They came for your light. They could not put it out no matter how hard they tried, and that quiet fact is the most important thing you will ever carry out of this whole painful chapter. Now I want you to carry one short sentence out of this video today. Not the one we just talked about, but one even smaller. It goes like this: I am still here. 3 words only. 3 words you can say to yourself tomorrow morning when you wake up alone in your own quiet space. 3 words you can say to yourself before any big decision you make for the rest of your life. 3 words that no narcissist on this earth can take from you once you finally mean them for yourself. That is the tiny seed the entire next chapter of your life grows from. Water it gently every morning and watch what begins to bloom.